So I answered it and was like, what's wrong? What's up?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dana's just announced that you're the champion. I was like, what? No way. Anyway, we had a little chat, put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background, like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident, because I was like, hello? Like it was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Like, whatever. I'm like done with that now, and I'm ready to move on, to be honest. Yeah, I know what that's I don't know, like I've been talking about John Jones.
I know.
I was happy to talk about John Jones to get the fight. And now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on. Stuff. And I think I'm not getting at John here. I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. So this is my view on PEDs personally. If you're a sprinter, for example, you do 100 meters and you take PEDs and you win a race, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs from that. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever, that's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again.
The Tom Aspinall versus John Jones tale has come to an end after years of suspense, public outcry, and rising hysteria. John Jones retired quietly. Without a farewell tour or emotional send-off, Dana White made a matter-of-fact announcement in the middle of a news briefing. Now, as the MMA world digests this disappointing ending, Tom Aspinall sits down with Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas. However, this is not just another chat. Tom is now the man with the belt, and for the first time since the news broke, he is opening up with a calm, concentrated demeanor, showing that he is ready to go forward. The waiting game is finished. There is no more chasing a conflict that was never going to materialize. Tom is now the UFC heavyweight king, regardless of how it came about. And maybe the most important aspect of this entire narrative is the comment John Jones never made, because, in the end, Tom retired Jones with his own presence rather than a punch.
Scenario other than fighting him. How this all played out in your favor, I would say best case scenario other than fighting him.
I mean, I guess, but you know what? I think that, see, for me, the second that I won the interim title, I think that a lot of people looked at me a little bit different to a regular interim champion, in my opinion.
You should have been the undisputed champion that night.
Yeah, that's what I think, just because of the politics around it and the way that, you know, things happened. But for me, I was always a champion anyway, interim or not, in my opinion, in my own view. But I would have liked to have taken it from the other champion.
Yeah.
As in a fight, that would have been nice. But I guess it's worked out pretty good anyway, I guess.
The discussion naturally starts with John Jones. Ariel Helwani remembers the moment last Saturday night when Dana White, almost as an afterthought, announced John's retirement in a news conference. Tom says that he was already winding down for the night. He had just returned home from dinner with his wife and pals, ready to unwind, when his phone lit up. His media agent called him after midnight, not with hoopla, but with a straightforward message. Congratulations, you're the winner. We will catch up next week. That is how it happened. There was no elaborate ritual or torch passing. Only a phone call and a new reality. Tom Aspinall is the man now.
Where is Tom Aspinall when this announcement is made?
I was in bed getting ready to sleep.
So you're awake?
I was usually, so it was around about midnight-ish. Yep. Usually I wouldn't be awake. I'm usually asleep before then. That particular day, I had been for a meal with my wife and some friends. We got in a little bit late, not too late, like 10, 11. So I was just like took a shower, was ready to sleep, got in bed. My phone started ringing. I'm like, it was actually my media guy, Charlie, who called me. And I'm like, why is Charlie calling me at like midnight? What the hell's going on? So I answered it and I was like, what's up? Like, I didn't even like say hello. By the way, if you front, maybe this will cross up, like, you don't really greet someone in the UK by saying what's up. What's up is more like a question of, is everything okay?
Oh, really?
Like in the US, people say, oh, what's up?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
We don't really use that in the UK.
Okay.
What's up means like what's wrong. So I answered it and was like, what's wrong? What's up?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dana's just announced that you're the champion. I was like, what? No way. Anyway, we had a little chat, put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background, like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident, because I was like, hello? Like, it was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Tom says that the entire encounter left him feeling more relieved than excited. While fans and critics have sometimes accused him of following John for money or the fame, Tom says that was never his motivation. He says that it was never about the money or the name value. Tom was always focused on winning the title and being recognized as the best heavyweight in the world. That is what drove him to work out relentlessly. What bothered him the most was not John's exit, but the wasted time, months passed without fighting anyone. Tom is not here to be a celebrity or content provider. He is a fighter, and all he wanted was the chance to compete again.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
What is your reaction?
I mean, I was relieved. I was relieved that this is all over, because I know you've backed me up on this a lot, and I appreciate it. I was never, ever, ever just chasing Jon Jones. And there was a lot of talk from people online and stuff, like there was a lot of comparisons to Chandler chasing McGregor. Chandler was chasing McGregor because he wanted a big fight and he wanted some money. Basically, that's what's happening there. I didn't care about a big fight or money. I cared about the heavyweight title. That's all I've ever been bothered about, is recognition for being the best heavyweight walking around on planet Earth. That's all I ever wanted to do. So originally, I'm just like relieved that I can actually fight again. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Look, I do some stuff in the media. I've got a YouTube channel. I do stuff across social media. I've got great sponsors and everything. Like, I do stuff in the media, obviously. But my job is fighting people.
Ariel presses on, questioning how the announcement was handled and how it lacked the gravitas such an event needed. It wasn't like the title handover scene starring legends like Jose Aldo or Ronda Rousey. Instead, there was a quiet, almost casual moment in the middle of a press conference. Tom knows things should have been handled more respectfully, but he's not losing sleep over it. Sure, it would have been good to get his proper accolades, but at the end of the day, the only validation Tom truly needs will come from his performance inside the octagon.
There has to be some sort of like appreciation of the pomp and circumstance that it's like...
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. It isn't great, in all honesty, but for me, in like 3 months when I fight, or whenever I fight, that's all going to be forgotten about anyway. Sure. Like the accolade is still there that I'm the heavyweight champion. I can still fight somebody. So that was my focus. Yeah, it would have been definitely nice to get my flowers a little bit more, but I can do that in the octagon anyway. Me personally, I'm not too bothered. I can see where like yourself and other people are coming from. Like, that's a bit of a shitty way to do it.
Your father as well.
Yeah, my dad was the same.
He called it pathetic.
Yeah, and I can see where you guys are coming from, but for me personally, I'm just like so focused on what I got to do, which is fight somebody.
Nonetheless, context matters. As Ariel points out, Tom now has a special distinction. He is the only heavyweight Jon Jones has never faced. Tom does not wear it as a badge of pride, but he is aware of the story. His simple presence may have given Jon pause. If Tom had been a 42-year-old on the decline, Jon might have stayed, but the present Tom, youthful, skilled, and deadly, was too risky. Jon went away, leaving Tom with the hat.
Frustrating. You can now sit here and say, I believe you retired Jon Jones. You could sit here and say, I retired Jon Jones, and you did say last summer,
yeah, I did.
He will never fight me, and he will choose to retire instead of fighting me. So that is a feather in your cap.
Again, I see what you mean, but that's like ego talking.
Your presence made one of the greatest fighters of all time say, I'm not fighting anymore.
It is.
If you were a 42-year-old former champion who was sitting there, he probably is fighting.
Yeah, I think so.
In fact, he was campaigning to fight Francis Ngannou not that long ago.
Or Alex.
Yeah. So that's a feather.
It's a compliment.
Yes.
It's a compliment.
Are you taking it as such?
I guess so, yeah. But again, that's like my ego talking. So I'm like...
However, Tom refuses to focus on hypotheticals. He's had enough of the Jon Jones discussion. He considered it previously because he wanted the battle, but now that it is off the table, so is the topic. When did he understand it was actually over? Several weeks earlier, he claimed. Not from any official word, but from the MMA grapevine. Friends training in Thailand near John's camp noticed he was not ready for a bout. He was simply living, not training with purpose.
Everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of, let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight, and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand at similar times that he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behaviour that he's doing outside the octagon, that he's not going to fight anytime soon.
Back in March, Tom met with UFC leaders in London. At the time, he truly thought that the Jon Jones bout was coming together. They told him to stay ready, and he did. For 10 months, there will be no holidays or breaks. Only constant training and rehabilitation, even if the outcome was not what Tom had hoped for. He can confidently say that he fulfilled his promise. He was always prepared.
Yeah, and the UFC always... I honestly think I've got to be one of the easiest people for the UFC to ever work with. Because, and that's not me like blowing my own trumpet. Everything they tell me I do. I never do anything like, they just told me for a year, be ready, stay fit, stay in shape, be ready for a date, be ready for a contract. And that's what I've done for the last year. I've not done nothing else. I've took like no vacations. I'm not taking no days off. I'm looking after my diet. I'm doing my recovery. I'm doing the sparring. I'm doing the strength and conditioning. I'm learning new techniques. I'm doing everything that a professional fighter at the elite level should be doing to get ready for a fight. So that's all I've done for like the last 10 months or whatever it's been. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation, to be honest, but I'm so glad now that it's just done and I can move on.
Despite everything, Jon Jones stays active on social media, leaving hints and comments about what could have been. However, Tom has had enough of guessing. He had no control over any politics or talks that took place behind closed doors. He's not blaming Jon or the UFC. He did what was expected of him. He stayed ready. He waited. And now it is his time. This is all that matters to him.
I think you've got to be able to see John's point of view. I don't know, it's difficult to say because I don't know anybody else's business and I don't claim to know anybody else's business. It's just like, I know what they told me. What the UFC are doing and what John's doing is literally nothing to do with me. They told me to be ready. I was ready. They told me I've got this much time. I was preparing myself for that, and that's literally all I can do. The money and all that stuff, and that's got nothing to do with me. So I don't really.
And I know you hate talking about this stuff. And
yeah, I don't know who's to blame, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's done.
At the interviews, and Tom does not attack Jon Jones, but when Ariel brings up John's background with PEDs, Tom's viewpoint is clear. He thinks that performance-enhancing drugs are a significantly more serious infraction in MMA than in other sports. In a sport where the purpose is to cause damage, using PEDs is more than simply cheating. It's dangerous and, in Tom's view, cowardly. He thinks that anyone caught using them should never be allowed back into the cage. Tom's strong attitude on PEDs is strongly linked to his thoughts on the GOAT argument. Ariel says that anyone who fails a drug test should not be considered for greatest of all time status. Tom agrees without doubt. He considers Georges St. Pierre to be his all-time best fighter, not only for his accomplishments, but also for his professionalism. GSP won the division titles, retired on his own terms, and never failed a drug test. Tom thinks that true brilliance is equal parts discipline and honor outside the cage and domination inside.
GSP is my greatest of all time. It goes without saying. Like, he has done everything. Like, say, two division champion. Also relinquished both of his losses. Zero PED stuff. And I think I'm not getting at John here. I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. So this is my view on PEDs personally. If you're a sprinter, for example, you do 100 meters and you take PEDs and you win a race, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs from that. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever.
Tom takes a firm stand on PEDs. If someone cheats in track and field, they lose their prize and must go on. However, in MMA, where physical health and jobs are at danger, the situation is very different. Using banned substances not only cheats your opponent, but also puts them in danger. Tom thinks that using PEDs in combat sports is unacceptable and should result in a lifetime ban, not simply a brief suspension. There is no place in the sport for someone who is ready to risk another athlete's future for an unfair edge.
Fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again.
The discussion switches, but Tom's emotional response to the past year is obvious. He's been stuck in a waiting pattern for months, interim belt over his shoulder. But the true title is still out of grasp. He was repeatedly advised to stay silent, patient, and professional. He did just that. Now he can finally go on. However, the event has left its imprint. You can hear it in his controlled comments. He is angry, yet has been changed by everything he has gone through.
It's difficult because for me, it's really, really simple. And like you said, people, they always want to ask me about Jon Jones and stuff. And this very interview right now will be the last time I speak about it. I'm never going to speak to it about it again. I'm done with it. Anybody who asks me moving forward will get completely shut down about it. I'm not going to speak about it again.
Okay.
But like from here, like I just want to be done with it. I just want to move on. But I did want to fight him for it. I think that would have been the right thing to do.
How do you think it would have gone? Could I ask?
Me and John?
Yeah.
I'm the ultimate MMA nerd. I love MMA. I absolutely love MMA. I live and breathe for MMA. I've trained since I was 10 years old, 32 years old. Everything that I do in my life is centered around me being the best version of myself that I can be. Other things aside, the title, who John is, all the hype around it, all the money and all that kind of stuff, I legit wanted to find out how my style would get on with it.
That's why, despite being officially resolved, this story feels unfinished. Tom Aspinall did not get the fight he wanted or the statement he earned, but he did receive confirmation that he posed too much of a threat. He was good enough, real enough, and dangerous enough to scare the so-called GOAT away. Tom did not retire Jon Jones with his hands. He retired him just by being there.
That's I don't know, like I've been talking about Jon Jones.
I know.
I was happy to talk about Jon Jones to get the fight. And now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on.
I get it. Now, when did you start to believe it wasn't happening?
Few weeks ago, maybe. When everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand at similar times to that he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behaviour that he's doing outside the octagon,